Yeah. So, Martin, another thing that happened in the world of celebrities and in the world of Twitter and world of social media, the world of reality TV show is that there was a show where Somizi revealed something very interesting about
Gaga.
his marriage with Mohale. So what Somizi revealed, and this is part of an ongoing situation where now Mohale and Somizi are no longer together; they are estranged. This happened, I think, a few years back, and there were allegations of abuse. So, Martin, we found out a lot of details actually on that episode of I believe one of Somizi's reality. I don't know if it's called Living the Dream or
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah. So Somizi is pointing out to the fact that Mohale wants obviously a lot of money from the marriage. Wants 50% of Somizi's estates, which contains Martin a few things. Somizi exotic cars. I believe houses in three different provinces. I think he owns at least 5 houses. One in Villiers Street and others in, I believe one in Durban. And so this man's estate is huge, Martin. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes, and this guy wanna claim.
Yeah. The husband is saying, I am entitled, Martin, to 50%.
You. Imagine 50% of all these houses and then other things.
It's not just houses. It's investments.
Yes.
It's companies that he
can even claim that you put me through nice lifestyle. I want to maintain that.
Yeah, alimony I think is out of question. It's definitely gonna happen.
Oh, okay.
That one I think. But what is in question right now, Martin, is the legitimacy of the marriage. So what Somizi is alleging is that the marriage was never registered with the Department of Home Affairs.
Yeah.
So as a result, Somizi is alleging that Mohale is then not going to get. In fact, he used the word zilch. He said Mohale is gonna get nothing from this divorce because this marriage was never
registered with the Home Affairs.
Yes. But what I also found interesting, Martin, about this story is that Somizi went to his legal person, and his legal person indicated that if this marriage is found to be legitimate, you will have to pay something to Mohale. But there has been a whole lot of opinions on this, and I've read them, and I've seen a couple of things being said about this marriage and its legitimacy. But what we do know now is that on the day of the marriage, apparently the pastor forgot the marriage certificate. So as a result, the marriage both partners did not sign the marriage certificate.
They must have been very excited in the process.
Yeah, but Somizi is actually saying, oh, maybe it was God, and he used the word look at God. It was God preventing him from signing this thing, which will lead to him losing half of his estate.
Yes.
But what is interesting, Martin, is that Section 11 of Civil Union says if it can be proved that the marriage was not finalized as a result of an error that was done in good faith, then they will allow that marriage to continue as legitimate.
But then, if that's the case, sorry to interrupt you. If that's the case, then the marriage that was not signed in the day of everything happening can always be, signed a few days later or a few months later.
Yeah, but it was never signed at all.
Yes.
So as a result, that marriage is not registered. But as I've already told you, the Mohale's lawyers will argue that this was a good faith error done by a good faith man, right? A pastor, a marriage counselor. So Section 11 of the Civil Union Act, Mohale can argue it. But over and above that, what has been said, what can also be argued is that they were customarily married. So in South Africa, we have different types of marriages. We have civil unions and we also have customary marriages. So customary marriage actually has been something that has been explored by the courts quite a bit. So there has been instances where marriages, people did not sign anything, but they are also customarily married. So what custom marriage is that there has to be few things that has to be done, and I think the one thing that the law recognizes, at least under customary marriage, is that if there was a divorce, rather a lobola paid,
Yes,
and you
yes.
can prove that a lobola actually happened, you can literally claim that this we are customarily married, even though we didn't sign
Okay.
a
Yes,
marriage
I get you.
certificate. We are customarily married, and this has happened quite a few. But interestingly, so with Mohale and Somizi's case is that Somizi did pay the lobola, which is an interesting point to the family of rather Motaung. But the Motaung family were against the marriage so much that they refused
To accept the
the
lobola.
lobola. But he paid it, right? So I guess it will be now the courts will have to decide if the fact that there was an intention, right, to
Yes,
pay
to
lobola.
pay lobola, yes.
There was a debt, which is the lobola itself, since you have created expectation that you're gonna pay it.
Yes,
And
yes.
you also paid that lobola,
Yes.
and it was subsequently obviously returned, but there is now evidence that this thing happened, this process unfolded. There's a letter that usually is sent to the family while they are negotiating this lobola situation. But this letter, in the case of Mohale and Somizi, cannot be found. But the legal aspects have advised that what you can actually do is that the people who are involved in the process can legitimize the process by writing affidavits, which is a legal binding document to say yes, the lobola happened. And
Yes.
also another thing that happened is that they had a traditional marriage, Martin, which plays into Mohale's
Okay.
case to say we are actually married because we had a before their big marriage on Showmax.
Okay, yeah, they had the
2019 they had
traditional.
a traditional marriage. So I've seen a couple of people saying customary marriage does not recognize same-sex marriage. I think, in my opinion, those people are wrong because every law has to comply with the constitution, and
Okay.
you cannot discriminate according to gender, and in fact, if that was the case, then that would be problematic. But obviously, certain legal experts have said no. These people definitely, if they can prove that they were customarily married, this marriage will be legitimized. But hey, that's the information I wanted to give to you and the people.
Yes, yes,
I want
yes,
you
yes.
now to comment on this situation so that I
To
can catch my breath.
Catch your breath. I think, in our preparation on this case, I think you mentioned something about, the government outlining laws that governs, same-sex marriage in 2006, somewhere.
Yeah, so the government, civils union that was done in 2006 legitimized the marriage of same-sex marriage. But Martin, before we wrap up this matter, there's actually been another interesting thing, an interesting case rather, of a beloved hip-hop artist, Motswako artist, as we know, WHP, who passed on, I believe, a few years ago. I don't know if it was 20... What was it?
I think it was 2017, somewhere there. I'm not sure as to which year was that. But
yeah, I'm also not sure. But they also had an interesting situation where WHP was dating this girl, this woman. I keep calling people. this woman,
apologies.
Lerato Sengadi, whom, even though they were married, left their marital home because of WHP's struggle with drugs and addiction, addiction and infidelity. So as a result, she left the home, but immediately after WHP died, she came back and said, "I am the wife. So as the wife, I am responsible for the home, for the marital home, and I'm also responsible for burying my husband." And she was kicked out of the house as the family did not recognize her as the wife of WHP, because according to the family argued that the marriage did not, rather the handing off of the wife did not happen. So as a result, they are not customarily married. But a court, in fact, decided on this, Martin, and I'm gonna read a little bit here. This is from the court case of Lerato Sengadi, and this case Lerato won. Lerato ultimately won, and
Yes.
she was recognized as the wife of WHP, and as a result, responsible for half of his estate, or all his estate now that he is,
Yes,
deceased.
yes.
So the court, this is the court, they said this in their judgment. Evaluating the evidence, the court held it to be indisputable that the applicant and the deceased, with the full knowledge and approval of their respective families, cohabitated together for a period of approximately 3 years before conducting their customary marriage. And I want to tell the people at home that cohabitation in certain instances can be recognized as a marriage.
Yes, because otherwise, you have an intention of some sort to say, I can take care of you,
Yeah.
and I can maintain you.
Yes.
And then this lady will be in nowhere to go, because now,
Yeah.
at the same time, she has some promise of some sort.
There is the nature of the relationship becomes long term. It can be recognized as marriage, even if you didn't
Yes.
even pay any lobola, you didn't propose or anything.
Yes.
But the court continued to say the respondent's instances on, or rather insistences on rigid formalities in the handing over of the bride as evidence, as evidencing the coming into existence of a valid customary marriage was wrong. And that's what the family was arguing. The family was arguing that since the handover, so they wanted to hold a rigid description of what customary marriage should be. But the court continued to say the Recognition of Customary Marriage Act does not specify the formal requirements of the celebration of customary marriage. And this is important because, Matei, we have different customs.
Yes,
Botswana will have their own customs,
Yes.
Zulus will have their own customs, Vendas will have their own customs.
Yes,
So
yes.
as a result, the law cannot come up with all these situations and then we put it there for a vendor marriage to be. So they put in just one requirement, and we are about to learn what that requirement is here. So it says the Recognition of Customary Marriage Act does not specify the formal requirement for the celebration of customary marriage. All that is required is that the prospective spouses are above the ages of 18, which they were both 18.
Yes.
And Somizi and Mohale
over
also are
both
over
18.
18.
Consistency in application of the law.
Must both consent to be married to each other under customary law. Somizi paid lobola to Mohale's family.
Even though they refused.
Even if they refused it, there was an intention, and you delivered
okay.
the money and you held a traditional marriage.
Yes.
And the marriage must be negotiated and entered into or celebrated in accordance with customary law. Customary law is not fixed and evolves as norm changes. In the present constitutional era, the custom of handing over the bride is an indispensable requirement to validating a customary marriage. Let me read this again. Indispensable requirement to validating the customary law. Law marriage cannot pass constitution. I don't know, but what they are saying is that the handing over of the bride is an unconstitutional situation, as we have already said. When every law in the country must conform to the constitution, so you cannot come up with some made-up customs, which they are kind of like made up, and you want to apply it in when you are analyzing whether people are customarily married or not. And that's what the court is arguing here, and that's exactly why I'm also saying, you will never be able to argue that since they are men and men, they are same sex, you cannot argue that that's not traditional or that does not comply with customs. Every law must conform with the constitution, and as a result, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I just read a few articles
Yes.
and court cases. I believe that Mohale and Somizi were married customarily and also civil, because remember what I said, there are instances where a civil union will be recognized if you can prove that the legitimizing, the solemnizing of a marriage didn't happen because of a good faith error, which in the Mohale and Somizi's case was the inability to sign the
Yes.
and this was pastor's fault, a third party. And so are you gonna blame Mohale for someone else's fault? This was not Mohale's fault, it was the pastor's fault. So this is a good faith error that was made. So I'm interested to see, but Matthew, I've been speaking for such a long time. What do you think of this?
Yes. I think for the fact that you stated that the parents didn't agree with the lobola payment, as a result they returned the lobola payment.
Yeah,
I think it was a presumption to say, as the parents, whatever you guys are doing, we don't have nothing to do with it, and we don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But you guys probably can continue, but don't involve us.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the things, when they were supposed to sign again, they did an error of not signing. I think that's what made the case very difficult. But I think some lawyer advised them, I forgot the name of the lawyer, to say, if you guys can prove, with affidavits and pictures of marriage happening, and if documentaries there, I mean, and it can be justifiably correct to say
Martin, was
they
there
are correct.
Was there not $1 million celebration that happened in life?
I think they have Mohale has so much evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was indeed.
And let's talk to the solemnizing of the marriage. So one of the requirements is that a marriage counselor is supposed to ask the two parties who are getting married, do you take this person to become your lovely wedded husband? And if you say yes, you have essentially solemnized the marriage according to the civil.
Yes.
Did this one happen, Matei?
It's common law, actually.
It happened. Right?
It happened.
So, our non-lawyer opinion is that this marriage is valid.
We're not lawyers, but this is our opinion after going through rigorous processes, consistency with the case of WHP. Rest in peace to WHP.
Rest in peace to WHP.
Yeah.
And Mohale, man, if you really want something to do with, and this is something that I wanted to say, it is not a guarantee that you get 50% of the estate. As we know, Somizi diluted his estate, has included a couple of people, her daughter and the mother of her daughter. So he might not get 50% of the estate. And also, they also have to look into other factors when they decide on a marriage settlement. How the term of the marriage. I mean, it was a short-lived marriage. So as a result, he might get a good settlement, but not necessarily 50%. So that's something that I thought it was important to mention. But Matei?
Yes. I feel like if they can explore other avenues, they will come into an agreement. Although for some reason, Mohale, is it Mohale or Mohale?
Mohale is sort of.
Yes, Mohale will come out with something from the marriage. But although if maybe for certain circumstances,
Mohale
won't
get come on with this marriage, a rich man. That's all I'm.
He's gonna be rich.
This was a bank grab, Martin, in my opinion, and Mohale is supposed to secure the bank.
Mohale go secure that
secure the bank, brother. Secure the bank.